Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to 2CTV with some breaking news as we receive the developments and, of course, all the updates about what's going on in the Middle East. Hello to everybody in the live chat. We'll get your reaction as usual. Let's talk about what we are hearing. We're hearing reports from the Iranian bases in the Middle East, and, of course, the airstrikes have been happening. We're just getting confirmation about who is actually targeting whom, essentially. So because the Israeli forces, the IDF, are being visible, as well as the US forces. So it's a little bit confusing exactly who is going where. But we are basically going to be giving you guys the up-to-date information, hopefully, as we receive it. So, first things first, let's talk about what we've been hearing so far. Over the last few minutes, we did hear that the regions of Al-Bukamal and, of course, Al-Mayadin as well have now been targeted. That's the IRGC bases, the Islamic Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. And then again, we don't know exactly in terms of the damage. We don't know exactly in terms of casualties or anything like that, in terms of the actual personnel of the IRGC. We do know that the presence of the US Armed Forces in the area has increased over the last couple of days, obviously. And we do know that the British government have decided to not support the Americans in this mission. But we also have an update in regards to what's going on in the Red Sea and the Houthis, because not that it's directly connected, but it is, of course, linked, mostly because the Iranian regime are funding all these different groups across the region. So, meanwhile, while this is actually happening, we're also hearing reports that once again, the American base in the Al Omar oil field has been targeted. Over the last 2-3 days, this oil field had been targeted before. I don't know exactly how much of it is left now, or how effective they have been, the Islamists, in terms of obviously attacking this oil field. Obviously, we'll keep you guys posted on this as well. One of the main problems we're currently facing is there's not much reaction from the British government, mostly because, obviously, apart from the fact that they said we're not getting involved, obviously out of fear because of a lot of the British assets in the region, and of course political fear because a lot of Islamists who are walking freely across the country in Britain. I believe that politicians in the UK are scared of what could happen in terms of retaliation in British soil. There is also, of course, this briefing that came from the US government and the Department of Defense, about DOD officials, saying that the B-1 bombers have now left, obviously, the airbase in Britain, and they are on a mission towards the Middle East as well. So this is the only technical support that the British government have given, allow them to actually leave the country to go towards the Middle East. We'll get your reaction, by the way, in a few minutes as well. And now, going to the update that we have at the same time from what's going on in the Red Sea and the Houthis, because, of course, while we know that the leadership in Gaza, the IDF are saying that 60%, 65% of the terrorists have now been eliminated or captured or whatever, right? So Gaza is under control, mostly. The Hezbollah situation in Lebanon, south of Lebanon, is uncertain. Both sides are poking each other, but at the same time, they are still surviving. And we do know that Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, is going to be making another public speech. By the way, when he makes a speech, it's mostly from a secret bunker. They put it on a screen. He's not really brave enough to actually come out in public. So that's the situation, the latest from the south of Lebanon and Hezbollah. And now in terms of the Red Sea and the Houthis in Yemen, well, parts of Yemen, obviously, we are hearing that the US government have been pressuring Sweden and the Swedish Navy to join the international coalition against the Houthis, mostly because it's also in the interest of Sweden to do it, because a lot of the companies, in terms of the international trade and commerce, they've been affected too. The reason Denmark and many others also joined was because of that. They knew that the whole economy is going to be affected if the Houthis continue to cause chaos like pirates. There is a big fear, by the way, that the Houthis have already warned the West that they might go into the Red Sea and cut the cables off, which will actually affect the financial services, of course, in terms of connection and everything else. This is a key point in the region as well. And that's why the US are pressuring all the others to also join. And of course, it goes back to what Donald Trump has been saying over the last day or two. They are saying about Trump said that NATO, I forced them, I pressured them to actually increase their contribution to the NATO budget. But he did say, in response to what the British government said in terms of not supporting the Americans, he said, I always said that the NATO allies, when they need us, they always ask us to join. But if we ever need their help, they might not be willing to do it. And even right now, you can see the Americans had to go and keep pressuring all the other countries to join this coalition against the Houthis as well, even though it's in their interest to do it anyway, because they've been affected as well as the Americans in terms of global trade. I'm just getting some confirmation about some of the targets. Obviously, everything is coming in live as we speak, so it's everything's uncertain at this point in terms of the details of this conflict. Actually, there we go. Let me just put it on the screen. Oh, wow. All right, we now have confirmation. Oh, okay. So, interesting. AFP is now reporting that 6 Iranian regime fighters have now been eliminated, likely been eliminated in these airstrikes. But at the same time, we're also hearing that US Pentagon is now telling us that the strikes in the, I don't know how to pronounce this, the Azov and obviously region in Syria were actually carried out by the IDF. For clarification, that particular region was not the Americans doing it, it was actually Israelis doing it. But in regards to the casualties so far, they are saying that 6 Iranian regime militants and fighters essentially likely might have actually been eliminated. We'll get the confirmation, of course, from the Iranian regime. If they, well, whether they deny it or not, that's all different situation, obviously. We'll keep you guys posted on that as well. Obviously, the updates are coming in live and very hot, no pun intended. While we wait for more clarification and updates about what's actually happening on the ground, let's go to the live chat, get some of your reaction as well. KKK, interesting username, says, only Donald Trump can save us. Seriously. Bella says, well, Bella and Ruby, there is too much scare tactics these days. There will not be a third world conflict. If there is, I will eat my neighbor's dog if food is to be fair, I do believe that any new conflict which is global, the format and the way it will look will be very different to the first two, because of the way obviously global warfare has changed and evolved over the last few decades. It doesn't mean it will be less dangerous or anything like that. It will just look different. It will be very different. It will be probably even slow paced and mostly affected by also cyber attacks and financial markets and everything else because of the system that we now have. Jen believes that England's definitely involved, just don't want to declare publicly so we can't be targeted back. And there's been a lot of theories about this, by the way, because it's not the first time the British government have actually done things in a more sneaky way. It's always been the British establishment's tactics to keep things quiet. There's a lot of also philosophical theories about what happened after 1944-45, because as we say publicly, it was declared that the British government and, well, the British Empire decided to devolve itself, and not even dissolve. It's very quiet. It didn't really fall, did it? And then publicly, it was perceived that the Americans are now the new world police. But there's also a lot of theories about the fact that surely not. America was still a new country to be the world police, world powerful. That Britain never actually walked away from the game. It was just mostly behind the scenes. But again, this is all the discussions been happening for the past few decades anyway. Let me know what you guys think. Varina says, Iran has stated they don't care about the proxies in Syria or Lebanon. They could all die. Moved all their men out of Iraq. So it is a good point to mention, to clarify. Then there is one thing to target the proxies. That includes the Houthis and Hezbollah. But the targets tonight have been the actual Islamic Revolutionary Guard based in Syria and Iraq. So they're not the proxies, they are the actual Islamic Revolutionary Guard officials, the Iranians, who are based there. In terms of the actual proxies, obviously we have the Houthis and we're already targeting them. So it's important obviously to know. So yeah, Verena is right in terms of the Iranians obviously not really caring about the actual proxies. They even betrayed Hezbollah. If you remember a couple of months back, we showed you that meltdown that the founder of Hezbollah had. Oh, the founder of, it was Hezbollah, wasn't it? Yeah. Saying that the Iranian regime had betrayed them and not supporting them against the evil Israel. That was an absolutely hilarious meltdown video as well. Let's see what else we have. John says, we have to. I'm assuming he's saying Britain have to get involved. If America says jump, we say how high. It reminds us of the relationship between Tony Blair and George W. Bush, obviously. Jump, how high. Cold Breeze reminds us, Islam out and all the illegals out. Christopher Smith says, my opinion, Maya, is that we will no doubt be in a major conflict this year. It is set in stone alongside the US elections and our own elections. We need to face that fact. We will be at war again. Let's not forget about the fact that because the world order has changed since the 40s, obviously, and since the days of empires, it's fascinating how not many people notice. You are in continued wars, but not necessarily the public open ones. Through proxies and through short-term missions that we are already doing, we are essentially at war against the enemies. Literally, by doing a strike against the Houthis or the IRGC bases, wherever they are. If it were 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 500 years ago, it will be classified as a direct conflict. But obviously, the new world is less obvious. They say, hey, it's not really a direct conflict, is it? We're just hitting a different base, or it's just a short-term strike. That's the new system that we have, the geopolitical system. It's fascinating. But if you actually think about it, as Christopher actually says, we are already actually at war. But they don't really make statements. They don't really get the king to make a statement on, back in the day, radio, now TV. AFC Man UK says, stop worrying about food shortages. University students manage to survive on just pot noodles, and so can we. Yeah, I personally survived on a lot of fried chicken wings and doner kebabs. That was not a healthy uni experience for me. Waking up with a hangover and having all that dirty food. Right, so Judith says, Maya, I am worried. Iran has declared a fatwa on you. That's true. How can you keep safe on the streets of London? Please stay safe. Well, technically speaking, I'm not safe. But my position remains the same to the Iranian regime watching this. Come at me. I dare you. Because nothing will change. I will continue my work. The whole point is we have to fight for our values, humanity, and freedoms. And everybody is doing their own work. Some people do frontline politics, some people do media, some people do activism. Everybody has to fight. Even if you still stay at home, it doesn't really matter. And if you surrender to the Islamists, there's no point. They'll come and get you anyway. So thank you so much, Judith. I will be more careful. I'll try not to post constant selfies of which pub I am in at any point. I need to learn not to do that. What's going on here? John Johnson says, get ready for the victim card to come out in Tehran. And lots of big crowds against the big Satan and us, the little Satan. Yeah, let's not forget, by the way, we are right now, as we speak, it's the week of the anniversary of what they call the Iranian Revolution, right? And the mainstream media in the West kept calling it the Iranian Revolution of 1979. In reality, it was a paramilitary coup of the Islamist occupiers taking over Iran. But it's the anniversary, and every year in Iran, during this anniversary period, they do a lot of pomp ceremony and all that. It's absolutely chaotic. And beginning of the whole era, the first few decades, you actually had, because they forced and they brainwashed a lot of kids and everybody else, they had big crowds coming to Tehran, going to the main square and doing the whatever ceremony they had. Even their own supporters, a few supporters that they had, the actual more kind of Muslims and everybody else in Iran, over the last few years, they've lost them as well. And more people have become brave enough to not even, attend, and they're actually brave enough to humiliate them and insult them and target them. So over the last few years, if you look at the footage of this so-called anniversary, not many people are there anymore. Even their own supporters have basically defected to the upcoming revolution, to the ongoing revolution. Capitol Police says, you are a mouthpiece for imperialists. For the record, imperialism doesn't exist anymore in the New World Order. There are new ways that we call it. It's mostly globalism. And I'm very much against globalists. So thank you very much. I'm a nationalist, of course. And I promote nationalism for every nation separately. For Britain, for Israelis, and obviously Zionism, and the Iranians, and wherever you are. So, that's literally the opposite of imperialism. Idiots. Right. I can see we have a couple of Iranians actually watching this as well. In this live stream. Right. There's a super chat. I missed a super chat. How dare you, Maya. KKK is back. Thank you so much. You got to change that username. Thank you so much. Super chat from Israel saying Biden deliberately acts this way or not act this way because his agenda is to embolden those evil empires, namely Russia, China, Iran, to destroy the West. Well, to be fair, there is a point about the globalists in the West, and they're clashed with the globalists in the East. Both sides are trying to basically run the narrative, and the idea that people like Klaus Schwab and all the other nutters had at first to create a big tent to bring everybody together, from President Xi and the US presidents and British and prime ministers and obviously South Korea and everywhere else, Saudi Arabia, didn't really work because it makes no sense when you still have different worldviews, regardless of the globalist agenda. They will still clash with each other. That's the whole point. One's worldview wants to still take over the others. You're not going to get this utopia of globalist Star Trek fantasy world where you're going to have one world president and everybody's going to be happy. It's just complete nonsensical. These people do not understand humanity and human behavior. It's the same problem that you have with communism, where they've tried to centralize everything and force people. Like, well, why do we have to force people? It's because people are not voluntarily listening to us. Oh. Vendetta, Viva Vendetta says, it's funny seeing the Middle East thinking they've got a chance. I know, it's brilliant. I also love how people in the West are terrified of the powers in the Middle East. They're actually scared of the Iranian regime and all the other nuts. Like, really? Okay, be scared for your own personal life. Absolutely. It's a very human thing. Be paranoid. We're considering we've got literal terrorists walking around the streets. That's fine. That's an okay fear. But being fearful in terms of being defeated, we are not going to get defeated by those guys. Obviously, if China gets involved and all the other weirdos, then that will be a very difficult situation. But if it's just a direct conflict, directly, without anybody else getting involved, with the Islamists, they're not going to win. Obviously, as I said, they will cause enough damage for us to have a lot of casualties, so let's not promote conflicts. Always try to actually go with peace. But these people don't get peace. You can't negotiate with nutters. Old woman, thank you so much for your super chat, saying keep safe. I shall stay in my secret bunker. It's not really a secret bunker. Jane says, Fox News is also reporting on strikes in Syria. Yes, Fox News is behind, a little bit behind schedule when it comes to 2CTV. We continue to report the news before others. Just going to give you guys, obviously, the the update again, in case you didn't join us at the beginning. The strikes have obviously been reported in the regions of Al Mayadin and Al Bukamal. Of course, then they also came and said that oil field that obviously has been problematic over the last few days has also been hit again. Let me just double check. There we go. Yeah. Yes. So the oil field in Al Omar has also been hit again. This is the actual American base. Last night they also did that. The Islamists obviously hit it. But then we also had Pentagon actually coming to say that the specific strikes that happened in the Deir ez-Zor a governorate in Syria was actually carried out by the IDF, not the Americans. They also confirmed that. But we do now hear that 6 Iranian Revolutionary Guard fighters have been eliminated and have been sent to meet their 72 goat virgins in the afterlife. Woohoo! Good luck, the goats in the afterlife. So, absolute nutters. Imagine spending your whole life thinking about the afterlife instead of actually living your life on this planet. How sad. Graham says, reports also are now on Al Jazeera. Yes, they're all behind 2CTV. Good. They're all probably taking the news from here now. Right, let's go back to you guys. P. Wright says, America needs to go for Iran so it can be a free country again. The problem is you can't really trust the Americans. Even the Iranians know they can't trust the Americans. Now, the Iranian people who are doing this revolution, the uprising as we speak, over the last couple of years, they've actually come out to publicly confirm that one of the chants is our enemy is not America, our enemy is already here. They're talking about the Iranian regime, the Islamic occupiers. Having said that, the Iranian people with this uprising have also been very clear. They don't want the Western globalists to come and liberate them like Iraq or Afghanistan. They said this is our fight, but they did ask a simple favor. Support us, and be a vocal supporter, and help us. Like the mainstream media, not really reporting what's going on in Iran on a regular basis. So they're still obviously doing their thing, but nobody actually finds out. Obviously, we report on 2CTV, but they've been very clear that they don't really want any sort of liberation in that sense. They just want the Americans or the Israelis to take out enough of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard and their bases so that they could finish the job themselves. So they could just be like, okay, the Iranian regime is now weakened. We could finish the uprising ourselves. And they already have a plan. Obviously, they're preparing the original Iranian Persian constitution, and they're going to have a referendum. Currently, the consensus is that the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi is leading the movement. Of course, he's been quite clear that he personally is not running for any office, but of course he wants to be the advocate, sort of like a Gandhi figure, but more peaceful, and of course then go and support the referendum and kick out the Islamic occupiers, and then bring back the Iranian constitution, either it's constitutional monarchy, parliamentary democracy, or whatever system they're going to have, of course. It's all about bringing back the Iranian and the Persian constitution and civilization that they had before. Secular democracy and a liberal society that they had in the 70s, 60s and all that. Maurice says, does anybody think that Joe Biden will support the uprising in Iran? He's incapable of supporting himself. No, of course, it's not in the interest of the Western globalists and the US Democrats to support the Iranian people. They don't want that. They don't want the uprising to succeed. They were rather, the globalists, the Western globalist policy with the region and the Middle East has been clear for a few decades. We would rather have a weak enemy in Iran than a strong, independent partner, an equal partner. Why do you think the CIA decided to take a gamble and train the Islamic occupiers and get rid of the Shah? They thought they could control these nutters. The next day, they came on the street and said, death to America. They would rather have a weak enemy rather than actually have an Iran that actually could prosper, especially if they get close to Israel again, like in the 70s and 60s. Become allies again. Angels of Death. Also, sorry, man, can't donate anymore. No, you don't have to donate. Don't feel pressured to donate or do super chats. You'll still get my monthly support. Yes, exactly. We have membership, guys. You can join the membership and you get bonus content, including obviously Zoom calls with me and Q&As. That's more sustainable. On YouTube and locals, my money is short these. No, it's cost of living crisis, guys. Don't put pressure on yourselves. I shall survive. The channel will continue to survive. SRC, thank you so much for your super chat saying, do you think there will be fighting on the British streets, Dad? And who do you think can lead Britain out of this mess? I don't think we have a current leader in waiting so far to reassure me that we will stay safe. But I'll go with the same speculation or theory that a lot of people are already having, people who talk about geopolitics, that unfortunately, we don't want this to happen, by the way, that the upcoming death or any potential third world conflict or anything like that, the way it will look is that there will be individual countries, all our countries, from Denmark, Britain, Germany, France, the US and Canada, all these places, we're going to have a situation where there will be actual internal conflict inside each nation and on the streets because the extremists and the enemy is already here. You know, I've been saying it repeatedly. You no longer have to wait for the tanks to cross the border like in the 40s. The game has changed. And they're already here. So there's a problem that society could get completely messed up for a while. But again, this is not a prediction, and we don't want that to happen. It's just that it's likely that they will be in this form rather than the old-fashioned, like what happened in 1914 or 1939. Another super chat from KKK, me again, about Biden's emboldening policies. See, it isn't only Biden; it is the entire WEF club consistently emboldening each and every anti-West actor. Yeah, so let's not forget. There are a couple of names that are quite obvious, especially one of them, George Soros, and of course Open Society, those guys who have been spending their time funding certain charities because he's a philanthropist, in case you didn't know. Oh yeah, George, the philanthropist. And somehow some of these movements and groups and charities happen to be Islamists. Happen to be the same groups who are basically working against independent nations like Israel or the Iranian people who are fighting against the Islamic occupation. It's interesting how these so-called powerful people or the elitist people, they just give money away so easily. But all that money could be spent on actual good projects in our own countries. Oh no, they all go to UNRWA or the Red Cross or directly to Hezbollah or something like that. Rob Johnson, super chat, thank you so much, saying keep up the good work, Maya. Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. Don't want to assume your gender, but I'm assuming you're a Mr. Yeah, we assume genders on this channel. Get used to it. You're a man, Rob. I've declared you as a man. Chongsu, thank you so much from the continent of Europe, because it's got a Euro sign on the message. Thank you for warning everyone. Keep doing your work. Keep warning the world about Islam. Thank you very much. I don't know why I just did that. A salute for no reason. MSW 215. Are you still going to cover the elections in the US, Maya? Yes, absolutely. So it's going to, I'm hoping that the timing of it is not going to clash with the UK elections, but over the next few months, we have big plans on 2CTV. We are finally expanding the channel. I'm hiring a couple of people with your help, obviously, and we are launching a new product, 2CTV Plus, which will actually be covering a lot of things on the app, on the website. Throughout the day, you could actually just check the news from there. You don't have to go on the mainstream media anymore. So that way we would actually have a team where I could actually go to the US and cover that for you guys, as well as, of course, any other key elections that happens across the Western world, including the United Kingdom. Also, look at this beauty. 389,000. We are getting close to 400k. Thank you so much. The campaign to get 2CTV to 400k is going well. In case you don't know the campaign, it's very simple. Help us by promoting the channel with one or two people you know. Any friends, family members, enemies, frenemies, whatever you have, get them to subscribe, get them, brainwash them. That's what we do. Politically groom them to watch 2CTV, and then we'll throw another big party. It was only a few months ago when we got to 300k. The channel's growing so fast, and we had a big party in London. This one, we're not going to do in London. We're going to do somewhere else because it's been too London centric. Anyway, there's another super chat before I let you guys go. Christopher, thank you so much. A big shout out to Christopher Smith for another support. Let me just double check if I missed out on anybody. No. For once, I've been a good boy. I've been reading all the super chats. All right, so let me just double check if we have any other reports coming in as we speak. In case, there we go. U.S. military have now begun also targeting Iraq, not just, of course, the Syrian bases. Yes, they have started. Even the Iranian bases in Iraq. These are not the proxies. These are the actual IRGC bases in Iraq. So that's the latest from me and 2CTV. Thank you so much for all the love and support. I'm Maya 2C, and we are the media.